Howdy. I wanted to share with you a composition I wrote and turned in yesterday. This is my experience at the point where I realized what was going on, when I knew I had to leave Jehovah's Witnesses. My composition's called When the Spell Broke. When the spell broke. Did you ever have one of those moments when you were coasting through life without a worry, and then suddenly seemed to wake up to a greater reality as if from a trance? Did you at that very same moment realize you were trapped like a bug under a glass with no way to escape? I felt like that once. It was a snap moment when the spell suddenly broke that I realized I was somewhere I should have never been, but had no choice but to face it head on. Words and quotes signify a special loaded language used to isolate. Perhaps it was just me, but the meeting at our congregation seemed particularly vibrant that particular Sunday morning on October 5th, 2008. I was the scheduled reader and prepared the Watchtower study lesson well in advance the day before. I carefully practiced each sentence most of the day and half the night until my eyes bled. I had painstakingly focused on the proper words to emphasize. My main desire was to educate the congregation of what we called friends through effective reading. I was ready to teach. Nothing was going to stop me, not even sickness, death, or stage fright. For 15 years, I was held back in the newly interested one position, and not once was I assigned a public talk by the overseers like others half my age were. Effective reading was all I had going for me, and all I was cautiously allowed. It was my only trump card I kept carefully concealed under the lapel of my suit coat. I needed to do this. I needed to break free of this inferior mindset that dogged me persistently like a jackal hounding a rabbit, and today was my one big chance. Reading before the congregation was my way of evening the score. I was determined to prove that I had great potential. Little did I know what was about to happen. A week or so earlier, I began studying the most intriguing of deceptions called logical fallacies. I learned hundreds of ways minds can be tricked with the sleight of keyboard. Words are arranged with such mystique, a magician with all his props is not as adept. The purpose of logical fallacies is to trick the reasoning skills of average folks, usually for ulterior purposes. It seemed for the first few days these magical techniques swirled in my thoughts like pixies, yet preparing for that reading assignment lowered my awareness like a dense fog upon a still lake. I never saw it coming until I was standing in front of the audience of over 120 watchful friends. On the platform, while reading from the pages, there were the fallacies. They were jeering like impish children, mocking the picked-on kid at school. One after the other, they were jumping off the pages, holding together an infrastructure of beliefs like a house of cards. I stumbled through the reading assignment of that Watchtower magazine of ideological fallacies like an old drunk staggering out of a gin mill. What could I say or do? Could I blurt out loud from the platform to my believed family of brothers and sisters our entire belief system was held together as if by Scotch tape? I was trapped on the platform like a rat in a rusty old trap, knowing I would lose my entire family, belief system, and social identity if I dared speak out about my discovery to the other members. What we called the truth was nothing more than a pile of fallacious thoughts, all held together by deception. Nevertheless, I had to eventually speak out and take my medicine. At the end of the meeting, I had to chew off my leg the only way I saw how, by revealing I could no longer participate in a life that was built on straw-like fallacies. Expulsion by forced shunning with the stereotype apostate figuratively labeled to my forehead was as certain as the winter approaches after the autumn leaves fall. So-called friends for well over a decade mechanically became enemies on command. Telling the townsfolk the emperor's clothes were invisible would have resulted in less hatred. All reasoning ended quicker than marionettes could be pulled off the stage when the final curtain falls, because of one thought-terminating phrase from the platform. Craig, propaganda techniques, is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. The spell broke that day when the fallacies holding my belief system together became manifest. I no longer had to jump through hoops that I believed made a person right with God. As with any loss due to our own improvidence, a valuable lesson emerged. Before entering into a religious contract with overreaching persons, find out first what the penalty is for leaving. If you do not, the spell you may find yourself under may not be as easily broken.